The cold wind blew across the empty fields as Mary Carter stood at her kitchen window. She watched her 8-year-old son Billy chop wood behind their small house. Her 5-year-old daughter Emma sat on the porch steps, playing with her cloth doll. The autumn sky looked gray and heavy with coming snow. Mary rubbed her tired eyes. 6 months had passed since her husband John died from a bad fever. Every day felt harder than the last. The corn crop had failed this year. The cow had died last month. She had no money left to buy food for winter. The roof leaked when it rained. The fence around their land was falling down. She looked at the letter on her kitchen table. It came from her husband's brother Frank Carter 3 days ago. Frank lived in town with his wife Helen. The letter said they were coming to visit. Mary hoped they would help her and the children. Maybe Frank would give her some money. Maybe he would fix the roof. Maybe Helen would help with the children. Mary heard horses outside. She looked through the window and saw 2 people riding toward her house. Frank Carter sat on a big black horse. His wife Helen rode beside him on a brown horse. Both wore thick coats and warm hats. Frank had a mean look on his face. Helen looked cold and angry. Billy stopped chopping wood and waved at them. Emma stood up from the porch steps. Mary opened the front door and walked outside. She tried to smile. "Frank, Helen, thank you for coming," Mary said. "Please come inside. I will make coffee." Frank got down from his horse. He did not smile back. Helen stayed on her horse and looked at the broken fence in the old house. "We did not come for coffee," Frank said. His voice sounded hard. "We came to talk business." Mary felt worried. "What kind of business? This land belongs to the Carter." "Family now," Frank said. "John is dead. You cannot keep it." "But John left it to me and the children," Mary said. "This is our home." Helen finally got down from her horse. She walked up to Mary with angry eyes. "You are not a real Carter. You just married into the family. This land should go to Frank." Mary's heart started beating fast. "Please, we have nowhere else to go. Winter is coming. The children need a home." Frank laughed, but it was not a nice laugh. "That is not our problem. You should have thought about that before John died." Billy walked over to stand beside his mother. He held the axe in his small hands. "This is our house," he said in a brave voice. Frank looked down at Billy. "Boy, you better learn to respect grown-ups. This house belongs to me now." Emma started to cry. She ran to Mary and held on to her mother's dress. Mary picked up her daughter and held her close. "Frank, please be reasonable," Mary said. "Just let us stay until spring. I will find somewhere else to go when the weather gets better." "No, Helen," said quickly. "We want you gone today. Right now." Mary could not believe what she was hearing. "Today, but where will we go? How will we survive?" "You should have married a man with more money," Frank said. He walked toward the house. "Helen and I are moving in tomorrow. We already sold our place in town." Mary followed him. "You cannot do this. John would never want his children to live." On the street, Frank turned around fast. His face looked red and angry. "John is dead. What he wanted does not matter anymore. I am the head of the Carter family now. The law says," Mary started to say. "The law says what I want it to say." Frank cut her off. "I have friends at the courthouse. I have money for lawyers. You have nothing. What are you going to do about it?" Mary felt tears coming to her eyes. She knew Frank was right. She had no money to fight him. She had no family to help her. Her own parents died 5 years ago. She had no friends with enough money to help. Helen walked into the house without asking, looked around at the simple furniture and the small rooms. "This place needs a lot of work, but it will do." "Please," Mary said one more time. "Just give us a few days to find somewhere to go." "You have 1 hour," Frank said. "Take what you can carry. Leave everything else." Billy dropped the axe and ran to Mary. "Mama, what does he mean?" "What?" Down and hugged both her children. She tried not to cry in front of them. "We have to leave, children. We have to go on a trip." "Where are we going?" Emma asked with her small voice. Mary did not know what to say. She had no answer. Frank walked to his horse and took out a rifle. "In case you think about causing trouble," he said, showing her the gun. Mary's hands shook. She knew Frank meant what he said. She had heard stories about him. People in town said he had a bad temper. Some said he had hurt people before. 1 hour, Helen said, from inside the house. Then we want you gone. Mary took her children inside. She found an old cloth bag and put in their few good clothes. She took the little money she had hidden in a jar. She found some bread and dried meat in the kitchen. She took John's pocket watch and their family Bible. She took Emma's doll and Billy's favorite book. The bag was small. She could not take much. She had to leave behind John's tools, her good dishes, the children's toys, and everything else they owned. Billy helped her pack. Are we really leaving forever, Mama? I don't know, son, Mary said quietly. Maybe we will come back someday. Emma sat on the bed and cried. She did not understand why they had to leave their home. When the hour was up, Frank came to the door. Time to go. Mary picked up the bag. She took Emma's hand. Billy walked beside her. They went outside into the cold wind. Where will you go? Helen asked. She did not sound like she really cared. To town, I guess, Mary said. Town is 40 miles away, Frank said. You better start walking. Mary looked at the long, empty road. She looked at her small children. She had no horse, no wagon, no money for food along the way. Winter was coming soon. Please, Frank, she said one last time, at least let us stay tonight. We will leave in the morning. Get off my land, Frank, said. He pointed the rifle at the ground near her feet. Mary knew she had no choice. She took her children's hands and started walking down the road. Behind her, she heard Frank and Helen laughing. The sun was getting low in the sky. The wind was getting colder. Mary looked back once at the little house where she had been happy with John. Then she kept walking into the unknown, praying that God would help them find safety somewhere in the big empty world. Mary walked down the dusty road with her 2 children. The sun was going down fast. Soon it would be dark. Billy held her left hand. Emma held her right hand. The little girl's legs were already tired from walking. Mama, how far is town? Billy asked. A long way, son, Mary said. She did not want to scare him by saying 40 miles. The wind got stronger as night came. Mary felt the first snowflakes on her face. Winter was starting early this year. She pulled Emma's thin coat tighter around the little girl. They walked for 2 hours in the dark. Emma started to cry. My feet hurt, Mama. I want to go home. We cannot go home anymore, baby, Mary said. Her own voice was sad. We have to keep walking. But Emma was too small and too tired. Mary had to carry her. The cloth bag with their things felt heavy on her back. Emma felt heavy in her arms. Billy tried to be brave, but Mary could see he was scared and cold. Mama, I see something, Billy said. He pointed to the left of the road. Mary looked where he pointed. She saw the dark shape of trees. Maybe they could sleep under the trees tonight. It would be warmer than sleeping in the open road. They left the road and walked into the small woods. Mary found a big tree with thick branches. She put their bag down and set Emma on the ground. She took out their extra clothes and made a bed of soft things under the tree. We will sleep here tonight, she told her children. I'm hungry, Emma said. Mary gave each child a small piece of bread. It was not much, but it was all they could spare. She broke off a tiny piece for herself. They needed to make their food last as long as possible. The 3 of them lay down together under the tree. Mary put her arms around both children to keep them warm. The snow fell harder now. Soon there was white snow on the ground around them. Mary did not sleep much that night. She was too cold and too worried. What would they do tomorrow? What would they get to town? What if they could not make it? When morning came, everything was white with snow. Emma had a bad cough. Her face felt hot when Mary touched it. Billy's lips were blue from the cold. We have to keep walking, Mary said. She gave them each another small piece of bread and a drink of water from her bottle. They walked back to the road and kept. The snow made walking hard. Emma could only walk for a few minutes before Mary had to carry her again. Billy tried to help by carrying the bag, but it was too heavy for him. By noon they had only walked a few miles. Emma's cough was getting worse. She felt hot and cold at the same time. Mary knew her daughter was getting very sick. Mama, I'm so tired. Emma said in a weak voice. Mary found a big rock beside the road where they could rest. She held Emma close and felt how hot the child's forehead was. Billy sat beside them, shivering in the cold wind. They had been walking for almost 2 days now, and they had very little food left. Emma was getting sicker. Mary felt hopeless. How could they walk 30 more miles in this snow with a sick child? That afternoon, the snow stopped falling, but the wind got colder. Mary made a hard choice. She left the road and started looking for better shelter. After walking for an hour, Billy saw something through the trees. "Look, Mama, a house." Mary looked where he pointed. It was not really a house. It was an old cabin, and half of it had fallen down, but the other half still had a roof and walls. They went to the broken cabin. Mary pushed open the old wooden door. Inside it was dark and cold, but it was better than being outside in the wind and snow. The cabin had one room. Part of the roof was gone, but part of it was still good. There was an old fireplace, but no wood. There was no furniture, just empty space. "At least we were out of the wind," Mary said. She made a bed in the corner where the roof was still good. Emma lay down right away. Her cough was very bad now. She shivered, even though her face was hot with fever. "Billy, can you help me find some wood for a fire?" Mary asked. Billy nodded. He was a good boy who wanted to help his mama. They went outside and found some dry sticks and small pieces of wood. There were also some old boards from the broken part of the cabin that they could burn. Mary had matches in her bag. She was very careful with them because she did not have many. She got a small fire started in the old fireplace. The smoke went up through the broken chimney. The fire made the cabin warmer. Emma stopped shivering so much. Mary gave her children the last of their bread. She did not eat any herself. Her children needed it more. "Mama, aren't you hungry?" Billy asked. "Fine, son," Mary lead. Her stomach felt empty and painful, but she could not take food from her children. On their second night in the cabin, Emma got much worse. Her fever was very high. She could hardly eat or drink anything. She coughed so hard that Mary was scared. Mary stayed awake all night, holding Emma and trying to make her better. But she had no medicine. She had no doctor. She had nothing to help her sick daughter. Billy tried to help too. He brought water from a small stream near the cabin, kept the fire going by adding more wood, worked like a grown man. By the third day in the cabin, Mary knew they were in big trouble. Emma was very sick and getting worse. They had no food left. Mary felt weak from not eating. Billy was trying to be brave, but she could see he was scared. Mary went outside and looked around for anything they could eat. She found some old berries on bushes, but most were frozen and hard. She found some nuts on the ground under trees. It was not much, but it was something. That night, Mary looked at her 2 children. Emma was so sick she could barely open her eyes. Billy was thin and pale from hunger and cold. Mary felt like crying, but she had to be strong for them. She knelt down beside their bed and prayed. "Please, God," she whispered, "help us. We cannot survive much longer. Please send someone to help my children." Outside the broken cabin, the wind howled through the trees. Snow began falling again. Mary held her children close and wondered if anyone would ever find them in this lonely place. She did not know that tomorrow everything would change. Running Bear moved quietly through the forest. He was hunting deer for his family. The snow was deep, but he knew how to walk without making noise. His bow was ready in his hands. His sharp eyes looked for any movement in the white woods. He was a strong man of 32 winters. His people, the Cheyenne, called him a brave warrior. He had fought many battles to protect his tribe. He had hunted in these woods since he was a boy. He knew every tree and rock and stream. Running Bear stopped walking. He smelled something strange in the air. Smoke would smoke, but no one lived in this part of the forest. No Cheyenne camps were nearby. No white settlers had cabins here. He followed the smell of smoke. It led him to the old trapper's cabin that had been empty for many years. Half the cabin was broken down, but smoke was coming from the chimney of the part that still stood. Running Bear hid behind a big tree and watched. The cabin. He needed to know who was inside. Were they friends or enemies? White settlers sometimes shot Indians on sight. He had to be careful. He waited and watched for a long time. Then he saw movement. A small boy came out of the cabin. Boy had yellow hair and pale skin. He was a white child, but he looked very thin and weak. The boy gathered small sticks and pieces of wood, then went back inside. Running Bear was confused. What was a white child doing alone in the forest? Where were the grown-ups? He moved closer to the cabin to see better, through a crack in the wall. Running Bear could see inside. There was a white woman sitting by a small fire. She held a little girl in her arms. The little girl looked very sick. She was not moving much. The woman looked sad and scared. Her face was thin from not eating enough food. Her clothes were old and torn. She rocked the sick child and said words that Running Bear could not understand, but he could hear the sadness. In her voice, Running Bear watched the woman give the last of her food to the boy. She kept nothing for herself. The boy ate quickly, like he was very hungry. Then the woman gave him water from a small bottle. The boy said something to his mother. Running Bear could not understand the words, but the boy sounded worried. The woman touched the boy's face gently and tried to smile, but Running Bear could see she was crying. Running Bear had never seen white people like this before. Most white settlers he knew were strong and had good food and horses and guns. These people looked poor and helpless. They looked like they were dying. The warrior remembered his own son, Little Wolf, who had died 2 winters ago from the coughing sickness. He remembered how his wife, Morning Star, had held their boy the same way this white woman held her daughter. He remembered the terrible sadness when Little Wolf died. Running Bear's heart felt heavy. These white people were his enemies. His tribe had fought against white settlers many times. White soldiers had killed many of his friends. White people had taken Cheyenne land and killed Cheyenne buffalo. But looking at this woman and her children, Running Bear did not see enemies. He saw a mother trying to save her children. He saw children who were cold and hungry and sick. He saw people who needed help. The sick little girl started coughing very hard. The sound made Running Bear think of his own son's last days. The woman held the child tighter and sang a soft song. The boy came over and touched his sister's hand. Running Bear made up his mind. He could not let these children die. He was a warrior, but he was also a father. He knew what it meant to love children, but he had to be careful. White people were often afraid of Indians. They might think he wanted to hurt them. He had to show them he was a friend. Running Bear stepped out from behind the tree, walked slowly toward the cabin. He held his bow in one hand, but he pointed it at the ground to show he was peaceful. He held up his other hand with the palm open. The boy saw him first. The child's eyes went wide with fear. He ran to his mother and pointed at Running Bear. The woman looked up and saw the Indian warrior. Her face went pale with terror. She held her sick daughter close and pushed the boy behind her. "Please," the woman said in a shaking voice. "Please don't hurt my children." Running Bear did not understand her words, but he understood her fear. He stopped walking and stood still. He set his bow on the ground to show he was not going to fight. The woman watched him with frightened eyes, but she did not run away. She could not run with a sick child. She could only wait and hope. Running Bear pointed to himself and said his name slowly. Running Bear. Then he pointed to the children and made a gentle gesture with his hands. He was trying to show that he cared about children. The woman did not understand his words either, but she saw that he was not holding his weapon. She saw that his face was kind, not angry. Running Bear could see that the little girl was very sick. Her face was red with fever. Her breathing was hard and fast. She needed help soon, or she would die. The warrior went to his leather bag and took out some dried meat, held it out to the woman. She looked at it with hungry eyes, but she was still afraid to take it. Running Bear set the meat on the ground, between them. Then he stepped back to show he was not trying to trick her. He pointed to the meat, then to the children, then put his hand to his mouth. He was showing her that the food was for them to eat. The boy understood first. "Mama, I think." "He wants to give us food." The woman looked at Running Bear's face. She saw no anger there, no desire to hurt them. She saw only kindness. Slowly, she reached out and took the dried meat. Running Bear smiled when she took the food. He nodded his head to show he was happy. Then he went back to his bag and took out more things. He had warm fur to keep them warm. He had medicine made from plants that would help the sick child. The woman watched as Running Bear spread the soft fur on the ground. He gestured for her to put the sick child on it. The fur would be much warmer than the hard floor. Very carefully, the woman moved her daughter onto the warm fur. The little girl stopped shivering so much. Her breathing got a little easier. Running Bear took out his plant medicine. He showed the woman how to mix it with water, made gestures to show that the child should drink it. The woman was scared, but she could see that her daughter was dying. She had to try anything that might help. She gave the medicine to Emma. The little girl drank it without fighting. Soon her fever started to go down a little. Running Bear stayed with them as the sun went down. He kept the fire burning strong, gave them more food and water. He showed them he was a friend, not an enemy. That night, for the first time in many days, Mary felt hope. This Indian warrior had saved them when they were about to die. She did not know why he helped them, but she was grateful. Running Bear looked at the white family sleeping by his fire. Tomorrow, he would take them to his village. His people would help them get well. It was the right thing to do. When morning came, Running Bear helped Mary and her children get ready to travel. Emma was still sick, but the Indian medicine had helped her fever go down. She could sit up and drink water now. Billy felt stronger after eating the dried meat. Running Bear made signs with his hands to show they should come with him. Mary was scared, but she knew staying in the broken cabin meant death for her children. She had to trust this kind warrior who had saved them. Running Bear wrapped Emma in his warm buffalo hide, put Billy on his strong horse and walked beside them, leading the way through the forest. Mary walked behind, carrying their small bag of things. They traveled for half a day through the snowy woods. Mary had never seen this part of the land before. Running Bear knew exactly where to go. He led them on paths that only he could see. Finally, they came to a clearing in the trees. Mary saw many teepees made of buffalo skin. Smoke rose from cooking fires. Children ran and played in the snow. Women worked on clothes and food. Men sat in groups, talking and making tools. This was Running Bear's village. This was where the Cheyenne people lived. When the people saw Running Bear coming with white strangers, they stopped what they were doing. Some looked curious. Some looked worried. Some looked angry. No one looked happy to see Mary and her children. An older man with gray hair came forward. He spoke to Running Bear in the Cheyenne language. His voice sounded upset. Mary could not understand the words, but she knew the old man was not pleased. Running Bear talked back to the old man. His voice was calm but firm. He pointed to Emma, who was still wrapped in the buffalo hide. He made gestures to show how sick she had been. He was explaining why he brought the white family to their village. Other people gathered around to listen. Mary held Billy's hand tight. She felt scared with so many people staring at them. Some of the Cheyenne had never seen white people up close before. Some had fought against white soldiers and lost friends in battles. Then a woman came through the crowd. She was about Mary's age, with long black hair and kind eyes. She looked at Emma and saw how pale and thin the little girl looked. Without saying a word, she came over and gently touched Emma's forehead. This was Morning Star, Running Bear's wife. She had lost her own child 2 years ago. When she saw Emma, she remembered her own little boy and how she had tried to save him. Morning Star spoke to her husband in their language. Then she took Emma from Mary's arms. Mary was frightened at first, but she saw the gentle way Morning Star held her daughter. She saw love in the Indian woman's eyes. Morning Star carried Emma to her teepee. She made signs for Mary and Billy to follow. Inside the teepee, it was warm and comfortable. There were soft furs on the ground and a fire in the center. Morning Star laid Emma on a bed of soft buffalo robes. She brought water and special herbs to make medicine. She had saved these herbs to use when people in her tribe got sick. Now she was using them to help a white child. Other Cheyenne women came to help. They brought food and warm clothes. They did not speak English, but they used their hands to show Mary what they meant. Were teaching her how to help take care of Emma. One old woman brought a special tea made from willow bark. She showed Mary how to give it to Emma to help with the fever. Another woman brought soft moccasins for Billy's cold feet. A young woman brought a warm dress for Mary to replace her torn clothes. Mary tried to say thank you, but the women did not understand English. So she put her hands together and bowed her head to show she was grateful. The women smiled and nodded. They understood what she meant. For the next few days, Morning Star took care of Emma like she was her own daughter. She gave her medicine every few hours. She fed her warm soup. She sang soft songs to help Emma sleep. Slowly, Emma started to get better. Billy made friends with some of the Cheyenne boys. They could not talk to each other with words, but they played games together. The Indian boys taught Billy how to shoot arrows at targets. Billy taught them some English words. Mary learned to help with the women's work. She was good at sewing, so she helped fix clothes and make new ones. She learned to cook food the Cheyenne way. She learned some words in their language. The Cheyenne people were surprised by Mary. They had heard that white women were weak and could not do hard work. But Mary worked as hard as any Cheyenne woman. She did not complain when the work was difficult. She was always willing to help others. Running Bear often sat with Mary in the evenings. He was learning some English words, and she was learning some Cheyenne words. They talked about their children and their lives. Mary told him about her husband John and how he died. Running Bear told her about his son Little Wolf and how much he missed him. Mary learned that Running Bear had lost his son to the same coughing sickness that almost killed Emma. That was why he had helped them. He could not save his own child, but maybe he could save hers. Morning Star also grew to love Mary's children. Emma reminded her of the daughter she had always wanted but never had. Billy was like the big brother her son never got to be. She treated them with the same love she would have given her own children. The other people in the village slowly accepted Mary and her children too. They saw that Mary was not like other white people they had known. She was not proud or mean. She did not think she was better than them. She worked hard and treated everyone with respect. An old woman named Grandmother Owl became Mary's teacher. She taught Mary how to make clothes from animal skins. She taught her which plants were good for medicine and which ones were good for food. She taught her the Cheyenne way of cooking and taking care of a family. Mary learned that the Cheyenne people had their own problems with white settlers. White people had taken much of their land. White soldiers had killed many of their people. White hunters had killed most of the buffalo that the Cheyenne needed to live. But Mary was different. She had been hurt by white people too. Frank and Helen had taken her home and left her to die. Mary understood what it felt like to be treated badly by her own people. After 2 weeks in the village, Emma was completely well again. Her cheeks were pink and healthy. She laughed and played with the other children. Billy had grown taller and stronger from eating good food every day. Mary felt happier than she had since John died. These people had saved her children's lives. They had given her a new family when her old family had thrown her away. She felt safe and loved for the first time in months. But Mary also knew that this could not last forever. She was still a white woman in an Indian village. Someday, she would have to decide what to do with her life. Where would she and her children go? How would they live? She did not know that very soon, she would have to make the most important choice of her life. Spring came early that year. Snow melted, and green grass started growing. Flowers bloomed in the fields around the Cheyenne village. Mary had been living with Running Bear's people for 4 months now. Emma was completely healthy and happy. Billy had grown tall and strong. Mary felt peaceful for the first time since John died. She had learned to speak some Cheyenne words. She knew how to make clothes from deerskin. She could cook food the Indian way. Morning Star had become like a sister to her. The other women treated her as one of their own. But Mary knew she had to make a hard choice soon. Should she stay with the Cheyenne people forever? Should she take her children back to the white world? She thought about this question every day. One morning, a young Cheyenne warrior rode into the village very fast. His horse was sweating and tired. The warrior looked scared and angry. He jumped down from his horse and ran to find the chief. Mary was working with Morningstar when they heard the warrior shouting. All the people in the village stopped what they were doing to listen. The warrior was speaking very fast in Cheyenne. Mary could only understand a few words. Running Bear came over to Mary. His face looked serious and worried. He spoke in English using the words he had learned. "White men come," he said. "They look for you. They have guns. They say you steal from them." Mary's heart started beating very fast. She knew it must be Frank and Helen. They had found her somehow. They were coming to take her back, or maybe to hurt her. "How many men?" Mary asked. "5 men," Running Bear said. "They wait at edge of our land. They want to talk to Chief." Mary felt sick with fear. What did Frank want? Way to find her? She had taken nothing from him except the few things that belonged to her and her. Children and the chief called all the people together for a meeting. Mary stood with Running Bear and Morningstar. Billy held her hand tight. Emma stayed close too. Morningstar, who had become like a mother to her. The chief was an old man with wise eyes. His name was Gray Wolf. He had led the Cheyenne people for many years. He spoke to the whole village about the white men who wanted to take Mary away. Gray Wolf said that Mary and her children were under the protection of the Cheyenne people now. He said no one could take them away unless Mary chose to go. He said the Cheyenne would fight to protect them if they had to. Some of the young warriors got excited when they heard this. They wanted to fight the white men right away, but Gray Wolf told them to wait. He said they would try to talk first. Mary felt grateful that these people wanted to protect her. She also felt scared. She did not want anyone to get hurt because of her. She did not want her problems to bring trouble to the Cheyenne village. Gray Wolf asked Mary what she wanted to do. Did she want to go back to the white men? Did she want to stay with the Cheyenne? The choice was hers to make. Mary looked around at all the faces watching her. She saw Morningstar, who had saved Emma's life with her medicine. She saw Running Bear, who had found them dying in the forest and brought them to safety. She saw Grandmother Owl, who had taught her so many things. She saw all the children who played with Billy and Emma every day. Then Mary thought about the white world. She thought about Frank and Helen, who had thrown her out of her home to die. She thought about the town where people looked down on poor widows. She thought about trying to find work and a place to live with no money and no friends to help her. "I want to stay here," Mary said in a clear voice. "These people saved my children's lives. They have been kinder to me than my own family. This is my home now." The Cheyenne people smiled when they heard her words. Morningstar hugged her tight. Billy and Emma looked happy too. They loved their new life in the village. They did not want to go back to the cold, hungry world they had known before. But Gray Wolf looked serious. "White men will not like this." "Answer," he said. "They may try to take you by force. Are you ready for trouble?" Mary thought about this. She knew Frank would be angry. He might try to cause problems for the Cheyenne people. But she also knew she could not go back to the white world. There was nothing there for her and her children, except hardship and danger. "I am ready," Mary said, "but I do not want anyone to get hurt because of me." Gray Wolf nodded. "We will be careful. We will not let them take you if you do not want to go." The next morning, Gray Wolf and 5 of his best warriors rode out to meet the white men. Mary stayed in the village with the women and children. She was too nervous to eat or work. She just waited and worried. Running Bear was one of the warriors, who went with Gray Wolf. Before he left, he came to Mary and spoke to her. "Do not worry," he said. "We will not let bad white men hurt you. You are family now." Mary felt tears in her eyes when she heard him say this. These people had given her something she had never expected to find again. Had given her a family after many hours. The warriors came back to the village. Gray Wolf looked tired but not worried. Running Bear looked angry but strong. Gray Wolf told Mary what had happened. Frank Carter had demanded that Mary be returned to him. He said she had stolen money and property from him. He said she was a criminal who needed to be punished. But Gray Wolf had told Frank that Mary was under Cheyenne protection now. He said the Cheyenne had investigated Mary's story and found her to be honest and good. Said Frank had no power. On Cheyenne land, Frank had gotten very angry. He had threatened to bring soldiers to attack the village. He had said the government would force the Cheyenne to give Mary back, but Grey Wolf was not afraid of Frank's threats. He told Frank that the Cheyenne had treaties with the government. He said the soldiers would not come to take one poor woman. He said Frank should go home and leave Mary alone. Finally, Frank and his men had given up and ridden away, but Grey Wolf knew they might come back. He told his warriors to watch the edges of their land carefully. Mary felt relieved that Frank was gone, but she also felt guilty that her problems had brought danger to the village. Morning Star saw Mary's worried face. "Do not feel bad," she said in her broken English. "You are worth fighting for. Your children are worth protecting. We choose to help you." That night, the village had a celebration. They were celebrating Mary's choice to stay with them. They were celebrating her becoming a real member of their tribe. Grey Wolf gave Mary a new name in the Cheyenne language. He called her Woman Who Endures, because she had survived so much trouble and stayed strong for her children. Billy got a Cheyenne name too. He was called Braveheart because he had been so brave during their hard times. Emma was called Little Flower because she was sweet and brought joy to everyone who knew her, running, bare, and mourning. Star asked Mary if she would let them adopt Billy and Emma as their own children. Mary was happy to say yes. It would make the children part of the Cheyenne family forever. As the months passed, Mary's life became peaceful and good. She married Running Bear in a Cheyenne ceremony. Morning Star became her sister wife, and they shared the work of taking care of their family. Mary never saw Frank Carter again. Sometimes traders brought news from the white settlements, but Mary did not care about that world anymore. She had found a better life with people who loved and respected her. Years later, when Billy and Emma were grown up, they would tell their own children the story of how their mother had chosen love over fear, and how a Cheyenne warrior had saved them all when they needed help the most. Mary had learned that family was not about blood or skin color. Family was about people who cared for each other when times were hard. The Cheyenne people had given her the greatest gift of all, a place to belong.